The sky over Zithra shimmered in colors no human had ever seen. Waves of green, violet, and gold stretched across the horizon, reflecting off the floating cities that hovered above the planet's surface. Humans who had come to this alien world often felt small, overwhelmed by the scale of Zithurian architecture and the complexity of their technology. Yet for Ethan, the young human diplomat, the awe was quickly replaced by anxiety. Today, he had to meet the Zithurian Council, a body known throughout the galaxy for its rigid rules and fierce control over all affairs. Ethan had come to Zithra with the hope of fostering friendship between humans and aliens, believing that cooperation could bring prosperity to both species. He had studied their language, learned their customs, and even tried to understand their ways of thinking. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. The council chamber was vast, a circular room with a ceiling that reflected the light of the twin suns. The members of the council sat high above, their eyes piercing and unyielding. Ethan stood at the center, hands slightly trembling as the lead counselor, a tall figure with shimmering scales named Arathiel, spoke in a voice that echoed like 1,000 chimes. "You, human," Arathiel said, "stand accused of crimes against the Zithurian people, espionage, sabotage. You have endangered countless lives with your reckless actions." He had no idea what the council was talking about. He had come here in peace. He had no secrets, no plans of harm. I don't understand," he stammered. "I've only come to talk, to learn, to share knowledge. I have done nothing wrong." Some council members leaned forward, their expressions cold, but others seemed uneasy, as if unsure whether they truly believed the accusations. Ethan's voice shook, but he tried to stay calm. "I swear on all that humans hold sacred, I mean no harm to Zithra or its people. Please hear my side. You have been caught in acts that threaten the stability of our society. You will be detained until further investigation." Just as the guards were about to take him away, a sudden voice cut through the chamber. "Wait." "Lyra," Arathiel said sharply, "this is not your concern. Step back." No one had dared to speak against the council in such a direct way, especially not someone so young. Murmurs of surprise spread like wildfire. Arathiel's voice was low, dangerous. "You are naive, child. You know nothing of the evidence we possess. His actions are clear, and yet you defend him. Why? There are truths you do not see, motives you misunderstand. This human does not seek to harm Zithra. Someone else wants you to think he does. You speak boldly for one so young. What proof do you have of this?" Arathiel's eyes flickered, a faint sign of hesitation. "You would risk everything for a human?" one counselor whispered. Lyra met the gaze without blinking. "Yes, because the truth is worth more than rules, justice is worth more than fear, and because humans have a way of surprising even the most advanced societies." He had never imagined that an alien would defend him so fiercely, so courageously. For the first time since arriving on Zithra, he felt a glimmer of hope. Arathiel's voice cut through the tension. "Very well, you may accompany her, but know this, if you are found to be lying, the punishment will be severe. You will answer not just for yourself, but for those who trusted you." The walls were lined with symbols that shifted and changed, reacting to the thoughts of those who passed. The air was thick with energy, a subtle hum that made every step feel like it carried weight. Yet Lyra moved with grace, guiding Ethan with confidence. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet. "To a place where no one can follow us easily," Lyra replied. "We need to gather evidence before the council makes a final decision. Time is against us, and their spies are everywhere." Yet Lyra navigated it effortlessly, as if she were part of the structure itself. Finally, they arrived at a secluded chamber lit by soft violet light. Screens floated in midair, displaying information Ethan could barely comprehend. Lyra gestured for him to stay back while she accessed the data. "This is where the truth hides," she explained. "The council sees only what the corrupt faction wants them to see. But here, in these hidden archives, we can find proof of Ethan's innocence." A set of logs showing that the accusations against Ethan were fabricated by a faction seeking to manipulate the council for their own gain. The logs detailed how someone had planted false evidence, creating a chain of lies designed to make Ethan appear guilty. Lyra's eyes glowed with determination. "This is it. This is the proof we need, but we cannot just present it to the council. They will resist. We have to be strategic. We will show them that humans are not weak, that one person with the right ally can challenge even the most powerful forces." And at his side, Lyra, small, determined, and fiercely brave, was ready to take on 1,000 warriors to prove it. The first step had been taken. The journey would be dangerous, and the odds were impossible. But Ethan and Lyra were united, and in unity lay the strength that no council, no army, and no scheme could ever fully anticipate. For the first time, Ethan realized that survival in an alien world was not just about strength or technology. It was about intelligence, heart, and the courage to defy expectation. And Lyra had all three. The adventure was just beginning. The night over Zithera was alive with faint glows, a network of bioluminescent plants and floating lights marking the boundaries of the city. Ethan followed Lyra through hidden alleys and silent corridors, his mind spinning with what he had learned. The truth was finally within reach, yet danger lurked everywhere. Each corner they passed seemed to hold watchers, and the hum of surveillance filled the air like a quiet warning. Lyra moved with the calm confidence of someone who knew the city as well as her own mind. Every step was precise, every turn calculated. "We cannot make mistakes," she whispered, glancing back at Ethan. "The Council's guards are trained to detect the smallest irregularity. One wrong move and we'll be caught before we even reach the archives." "I've never seen anyone move like this in my life." Lyra pressed a series of symbols on the wall, and a hidden door slid open silently. Inside, the room glowed with a soft, violet light, and holographic screens hovered in midair. This was the place where Lyra had been gathering evidence, the place where the truth waited to be uncovered. "Here," she said, guiding Ethan to a central platform. "This is where we begin. Everything you see here is part of the hidden records of the Council and the factions that influence it. We have to find proof that the accusation against you is false." I don't know where to start," he admitted. "You start by observing," Lyra replied. "Notice the inconsistencies, look for patterns that don't match what the Council says. Humans have an advantage here, your perspective is different. You see things aliens sometimes overlook. Someone within the Council wanted to manipulate the humans' presence on Zithera, using Ethan as a pawn to create distrust and fear. This faction," Lyra explained, pointing to a series of logs, "planted evidence that shows you sabotaged one of their research stations. But the timestamps don't match reality. They wanted the Council to believe you were there at the time, but you were on a diplomatic visit to another sector. The manipulation is clever, but not perfect. They will try to stop us if they suspect anything." As dawn approached, Lyra finally leaned back, a satisfied smile on her face. "We have what we need. The evidence is complete, but now comes the hard part. We must present it to the Council in a way that cannot be ignored or destroyed. I don't know if we can convince them. And we have something they cannot anticipate, the truth, combined with a strategy they do not see coming." Lyra planned to intercept the discussion and present their findings before the faction could manipulate the Council further. They waited, silent and tense, as the counselors arrived one by one. Ethan marveled at how different the political system was from anything he had known on Earth. It was strict, precise, and intimidating, yet it was not unchangeable. Lyra understood its rhythms and weaknesses, and that gave them hope. Finally, the moment arrived. Lyra used a combination of holographic signals and discrete transmissions to alert sympathetic members of the Council. A few counselors, intrigued by the young alien's reputation for honesty, agreed to listen without preconceptions. Lyra and Ethan moved swiftly, presenting the evidence in a hidden chamber where only the counselors and a select few guards were present. Ethan explained what he had learned, his voice steady but passionate. "I have done nothing to harm Zithera. The accusations against me are false. Evidence has been manipulated by a faction seeking to use me to create conflict. I come to you not as a threat, but as someone who wants peace and understanding. The evidence shows tampering. If these records are correct, then the human is innocent. The Council deserves to know the real facts before making a decision." The proof was irrefutable. The manipulated timestamps, falsified surveillance, and forged reports left no room for doubt. Finally, he spoke, his voice measured. "This human is not guilty. The faction responsible for this deception will be investigated, and measures will be taken to ensure justice." For the first time since his arrival on Zithera, he felt free. He had been wrongly accused, trapped in a situation beyond his understanding, yet now the truth had been revealed. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting pride and satisfaction. "It is not over yet," she said softly. "The faction that tried to deceive the Council will not give up easily. We must remain vigilant. But this victory is ours for now." You remind us that courage and intelligence are not limited to one species. The city around them seemed to glow brighter now, the twin suns reflecting off the floating structures, painting the skies with colors of hope. Lyra guided Ethan back through hidden paths, ensuring they were not followed, while he considered the next steps. The faction that had tried to frame him might strike again, and the council could still face challenges in understanding the full truth. But for the first time, Ethan felt confident. With Lyra by his side, he had a chance not only to survive, but to make a real difference. Together, they could navigate the dangers of Zithra, outsmart those who sought to deceive, and prove that humans were more capable than the galaxy had ever imagined. The journey ahead was uncertain, and the challenges would grow. But one thing was clear: they were no longer victims of circumstance. They were a team, united by courage, trust, and the shared belief that truth and justice could prevail even in the face of impossible odds. And so, as the sun rose over Zithra, painting the floating cities in golden light, Ethan and Lyra prepared for the next stage of their mission. The path would be difficult, but they were ready. For in a galaxy that underestimated humans, their cleverness, determination, and bravery could change everything. Together, they were unstoppable. The skies over Zithra were alive with movement. Drones and surveillance crafts floated silently above the floating cities, keeping watch over every street and corridor. The council had begun investigating the faction that had tried to frame Ethan, but the task was complicated. The corrupt faction had connections and influence that ran deep, and their reach extended into the military forces of Zithra. Lyra knew that relying on the council alone would not be enough. If Ethan was to remain safe and the truth fully revealed, they had to act decisively. Lyra led Ethan to a hidden area beneath the city, a place few Zithurians knew existed. Here, the architecture was older, built before the council had consolidated power. The walls were lined with forgotten chambers and secret passages, perfect for hiding and planning. Lyra paused and looked at Ethan seriously. "This is where we start," she said. "The faction that tried to frame you is strong, and they have warriors, elite ones trained for 1,000 different ways to stop intruders. They expect any human to be weak, slow, and easy to control. That is their mistake. You are not like other humans." "I don't know if I can." Lyra had studied the training patterns of the faction's warriors, noticing routines and predictable movements. She designed traps and diversions that relied on observation and clever timing rather than strength. Ethan contributed too, thinking of ways to exploit small weaknesses and unusual strategies. Days passed as they prepared. Ethan learned to move silently, to read the slightest signs of detection, and to analyze behavior patterns of the guards. Lyra taught him how to use technology creatively, how to create signals to distract sensors, how to manipulate light reflections, and how to leave false traces that would confuse the warriors. Finally, the moment came. Lyra had discovered a gathering of the faction's warriors in one of the council's secondary training facilities. It was the perfect opportunity to intercept their plans and expose them before they could act again. The location was heavily guarded, but Lyra's strategies were precise. As they approached the facility, Ethan's heart pounded. He had never seen so many elite warriors in one place. Their armor gleamed under the twin suns, and their movements were synchronized, almost robotic. Yet Lyra remained calm, scanning, calculating, and adjusting their path with quiet confidence. "Follow me exactly," she whispered. "One wrong step and we will be discovered. But if we are clever, we can observe without being noticed, and we can leave proof for the council that will make the faction powerless." Ethan marveled at how Lyra moved with such grace, her violet scales reflecting the faint light. Every movement was deliberate, every glance calculated. It was like watching a dance, but one with the highest stakes imaginable. Once inside, they began gathering evidence. Lyra instructed Ethan on how to record digital logs and create copies of strategic plans without triggering any alarms. The two worked in silence, aware that detection could mean failure and danger. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed down the corridor, footsteps approaching. Lyra motioned for Ethan to hide behind a large support beam. They pressed themselves against the wall as a pair of warriors passed, their attention focused elsewhere. Ethan's heart raced, but Lyra remained composed, her presence calming him. "This is the moment humans excel at," she whispered. "Observing, adapting, and improvising. Watch closely and remember everything." Ethan realized that even the smallest detail, a flicker in the lighting system, a faint hum in a corridor, could be the key to outsmarting the elite warriors. Hours passed, and finally they had what they needed. Evidence of the faction's manipulations, hidden plans, and secret alliances, all captured and stored securely. Lyra smiled, pride in her eyes. We have it. The Council will see the truth now, and the faction will have no power over your fate. Follow me. She led Ethan through a series of hidden tunnels, doors, and passages that even the faction's warriors did not know. They ducked, slipped, and moved with precision, avoiding detection at every turn. Ethan realized then how much human ingenuity and alien knowledge could combine to overcome overwhelming odds. He had learned to think in ways he never imagined, to anticipate, and to improvise. Each step was a small victory, and each successful escape a confirmation of their cleverness. Eventually, they reached a high vantage point, overlooking the main chamber where the faction's leaders convened. Lyra signaled Ethan to observe quietly. The leaders were discussing their next moves, unaware that evidence of their schemes was already secure. You see, Lyra whispered, we have them where we want. They believe they are in control, but their plans are already exposed. The Council will see, and justice will be served without a single fight. He had doubted his own abilities, but now he saw how his creativity and adaptability mattered. Humans were underestimated, yet those very traits made them formidable in ways others could not predict. As the sun set over Zithra, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Lyra and Ethan descended from their hiding place. The facility was quiet again, the immediate danger past. They had outsmarted the faction without violence, relying only on strategy, intelligence, and courage. Lyra placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Remember this moment. You have proven that humans can face impossible odds and succeed. This is only the beginning. The faction will try again, but now we know how to stay ahead. And I will be ready. With you, I feel like we can face anything. When they presented the evidence to the Council, the reaction was immediate. The falsified records, the manipulated surveillance, and the secret plans left the Council with no choice but to acknowledge the truth. Even the skeptical Arethiel could not deny the facts. This human, Valen said, has proven more capable than we imagined. The faction's manipulation is clear. They will be investigated, and measures will be taken to ensure justice. He had faced an impossible challenge, and through cleverness and teamwork, he had overcome it. He looked at Lyra, understanding for the first time the power of their alliance. Humans were not weak. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and resilient. The city outside seemed to glow with new energy, as if celebrating their triumph. The sun set completely now, leaving trails of light across the horizon, and Ethan knew that this was only the start of something much larger. The faction might still exist, but their plans were exposed, and the Council had a reason to act. Lyra led him back through the hidden paths, ensuring their journey remained unnoticed. Ethan felt a deep respect for her skills, her bravery, and her unwavering belief in humanity. Together, they had faced 1,000 potential obstacles and emerged victorious, not through violence, but through strategy and intelligence. As they looked out over the city, Ethan realized that this experience had changed him. He was no longer just a visitor on Zithra. He was an active participant in shaping its future, proving that humans could stand toe-to-toe with the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Lyra's eyes reflected the stars above. There will be more challenges ahead, Ethan. The faction will not rest, and neither will we. But now you understand, humans have a strength that others overlook. And together, we can face whatever comes next. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, not with weapons, but with intelligence, courage, and trust. And in a galaxy that underestimated humans, they were beginning to prove that even a single human, with the right ally, could change the course of events. The adventure was far from over, but one truth was clear. Human ingenuity, combined with determination and a brave friend, could challenge even the most formidable foes. And together, Ethan and Lyra were unstoppable. The sun rose over Zithra, casting soft light on the floating cities. Ethan and Lyra stood on a high terrace, looking down at the streets below. The faction that had tried to frame Ethan was not idle. They were gathering their warriors, preparing to strike back and regain control, but Lyra was ready. She had studied their strategies and weaknesses, and with Ethan's growing insight, they had a plan to turn the tables. Lyra turned to Ethan. Today, we act. We will show them that humans are not as weak as they think. We will not fight with force, they expect that, but with intelligence, strategy, and creativity. That is our advantage. Every step, every motion revealed patterns. Ethan noticed something others might miss, small delays in response, subtle habits that could be used to their advantage. Lyra encouraged him to pay attention to even the tiniest details. "We are not alone," Lyra whispered. "Some Zithurians still respect justice. They see what the faction is doing and want to help. If we coordinate with them, we can create distractions and redirect attention." Using holographic projections and subtle signals, they created the illusion of multiple intruders moving through the city. The faction's warriors were drawn away from key locations, chasing shadows and false leads. Ethan watched in amazement as his human intuition contributed to the plan. He suggested timing the holographic movements to mimic predictable patrols, making the deception almost perfect. Lyra smiled. "You are learning fast. Humans think differently, and that makes you invaluable." They recorded messages, mapped secret tunnels, and collected proof of manipulated reports. Every piece of information added to their advantage, giving the Council undeniable evidence that could not be ignored. The faction's leaders realized something was wrong when reports of intruders and strange signals reached them. They called their warriors back, only to find confusion and disorganization. Ethan and Lyra had anticipated this. Using the secret paths and hidden chambers, they were already in positions that allowed them to observe without being seen. Ethan began to understand the true power of human creativity. The Zithurians had strength, technology, and training, but humans had adaptability. They could improvise in ways the faction's rigid warriors could not predict. And with Lyra guiding him, every step was calculated for maximum effect. The next stage of their plan involved communication. Lyra used secure channels to alert the Council to the faction's movements, providing evidence of both past manipulations and current strategies. The councilors, now fully aware of the threat, began coordinating their own measures. Some of the faction's loyal warriors were quietly redirected to neutral areas, reducing their immediate strength. Ethan marveled at how the battle was being won without a fight. It was a contest of minds, timing, and observation. Every move was deliberate, every decision strategic. He realized that this was the essence of human ingenuity, the ability to adapt, to notice what others overlook, and to act with courage. Lyra guided Ethan to the faction's main command center, a large chamber where their leaders met to plan. Using their collected data, they projected false information onto the chamber's communication systems. The leaders reacted, sending warriors to intercept shadows that did not exist, giving Lyra and Ethan free access to observe and gather even more critical evidence. One leader, a tall Zithurian with golden scales, grew suspicious. "Something is wrong," he said. "Our systems show intruders, but no one is there. How is this possible?" Think about what humans would do next. Use logic and imagination. Together, Ethan and Lyra initiated the final stage of their plan. Using the evidence they had gathered, they created a secure data stream directly to the Council, showing not only past manipulations, but also the current disarray of the faction's forces. At the same time, holographic projections and signals redirected the warriors, causing confusion and hesitation. The Council acted swiftly. Loyal members moved to secure key areas, intercepting the faction's leaders and ensuring they could not regain control. The faction's warriors, caught off guard and misled, became disorganized. Without realizing it, they were outmaneuvered by strategy rather than strength. Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had contributed to this victory, not with weapons, but with observation, intelligence, and creativity. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, yet here his perspective had made a difference. Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining. "You see, we do not need to fight like they expect. We win by thinking, by predicting, and by acting in ways they cannot imagine. That is why humans are remarkable." Ethan and Lyra walked through the city, watching the warriors return to their proper posts under the Council's guidance. There was no celebration, no cheering. This victory was quiet, clever, and absolute. It was a triumph of intelligence over brute force, of preparation over recklessness. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the floating cities, Ethan reflected on what had happened. He had faced 1,000 warriors, not in combat, but in the realm of strategy and observation. And through it all, humans had proven themselves capable of adapting, improvising, and succeeding where others expected failure. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "Remember this lesson. Humans are not weak. They are underestimated, and that is their advantage. You used what made you human, your mind, your curiosity, and your courage to succeed." Lyra and Ethan looked out over the streets, knowing that the faction would think twice before attempting another scheme. They had proven that intelligence, creativity, and courage could overcome even overwhelming odds. And in the quiet of the night, Ethan realized something important. Victory was not about defeating others with force. It was about seeing opportunities, acting with insight, and having the courage to follow through. Humans could do this, and he had learned firsthand that even a single human with the right ally could change the course of events in ways that others could not predict. Lyra's eyes reflected the stars above. There will be more challenges, Ethan. The faction may try again, and other forces may test us. But now we know our strength, our minds, our strategy, and our willingness to act when others hesitate. The lesson was clear. Courage, creativity, and intelligence could overcome any obstacle, no matter how formidable. And as they stood on the terrace, watching Zithra glow under the night sky, they knew that the final confrontation with the 1,000 warriors would come. But when it did, they would face it not with fear, but with the cleverness and determination that made humans remarkable. The adventure was far from over. The stakes were higher than ever, but Ethan and Lyra had already shown that strategy, unity, and courage could turn the impossible into reality. And together they were unstoppable. The air over Zithra was crisp with the promise of a new day. Floating cities glimmered under the twin suns, their colors shifting as light reflected off the polished surfaces. The council had been fully briefed on the faction's schemes, and the remaining warriors were scattered, confused, and powerless to mount an organized plan. Yet Lyra and Ethan knew that true victory required more than evidence and exposure. It required a final demonstration of ingenuity, courage, and unity that would ensure humans earned the respect of the entire Zithurian world. Lyra turned to Ethan as they walked through the high corridors of the council's central building. This is the moment we solidify everything we've worked for. The faction may still try to influence others quietly, but with the plan we have, we will make sure no one can underestimate humans again. He had come to Zithra as a visitor, a diplomat, and had found himself at the center of a web of intrigue, facing warriors and deception beyond anything he had imagined. Yet with Lyra's guidance, he had learned that humans were capable of far more than the galaxy expected. The first step was to secure the cooperation of the Council's remaining loyalists. Lyra had identified those who valued justice over power and worked quietly to inform them of the faction's remaining strategies. These counselors were crucial. They could act quickly to prevent any resurgence of the faction's influence. Ethan observed the counselors as they met in a private chamber. "They are ready," Lyra whispered. "Now we just need to show them what humans and aliens can do together." The counselors watched in awe as the strategies unfolded, movements, diversions, and tactics that no rigid mind could predict, all executed flawlessly without conflict. One counselor, a tall Zithurian with silver-blue scales, spoke up. "I have seen warriors who could defeat many opponents, yet here you show that strategy, foresight, and teamwork can overcome them without violence. This is extraordinary. Humans may seem weak, but we find ways to succeed where others fail." The thousands of elite warriors who had once been organized under the faction's control were dispersed, following false orders or simply unsure where to go. Lyra had devised one final demonstration, an elaborate exercise showing how the faction's rigid strategies could be outmaneuvered through clever planning. Ethan marveled at the setup. Holographic projections, coordinated signals, and hidden markers designed to simulate the faction's response to various scenarios. With a small team of loyal council supporters observing, Ethan and Lyra demonstrated each move, anticipating the reactions of the warriors and illustrating how adaptability, observation, and intelligence could outmatch sheer numbers. "This is why humans should never be underestimated," Lyra explained as the demonstration unfolded. "We are unpredictable, and we use what others cannot anticipate. That is why even 1,000 warriors can be outsmarted by careful planning and strategy." The counselors watched, fascinated, as human creativity combined with Zithurian skill produced results beyond anything they had imagined. When the demonstration concluded, silence filled the chamber. Then one counselor, a respected elder named Valen, spoke. "I have witnessed incredible power, intelligence, and courage today. It is clear to me that humans are not just visitors to our world. They are valuable allies, capable of thought and action beyond what we assumed. Their contribution should be respected and celebrated. The faction underestimated us, but now their influence is gone, and the council knows the truth. This human, Ethan, has been falsely accused. yet he has faced every challenge with courage, intelligence, and determination. The faction responsible for the deception has been exposed and neutralized. From this day forward, humans are recognized as capable and honorable members of Zethurian society. For so long, he had been on the defensive, proving his innocence and trying to survive. Now, recognition had replaced fear. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. Lyra stood beside him, her presence steady and reassuring. "You see, Ethan, humans can face impossible odds, outthink the strongest opponents, and succeed where others would fail." And today, the galaxy has witnessed that truth. Stories of Ethan and Lyra's clever strategies spread, inspiring admiration and curiosity across the floating cities. For the first time, humans earned a place of respect in an advanced alien society. Lyra and Ethan walked through the city together, observing the reactions of Zethurians as they learned the truth. Children pointed to them with wonder, counselors nodded with acknowledgement, and ordinary citizens smiled in recognition. It was a moment of triumph not achieved through conflict, but through intelligence, courage, and cooperation. Ethan turned to Lyra. "I never imagined that a human could have such an impact here. And I never imagined that one alien would believe in us so completely. And that is why this victory belongs to both of us." Lyra rested a hand on his shoulder. "This is only the beginning. There will be other challenges, other factions, and other tests. But you have learned something essential. Humans are stronger than anyone expects, and when we act with intelligence and courage, we can overcome anything. With you by my side, there is nothing we cannot face. Together, humans and Zethurians can achieve more than either of us could alone." The faction had been defeated not by force, but by strategy and ingenuity. Humans had shown the galaxy their value, and a new era of respect and collaboration had begun. As the light faded, Ethan reflected on how far they had come. From being falsely accused and facing impossible odds to standing as respected allies of Zithera, the journey had been challenging, but it had proven the power of human ingenuity. And beside him, Lyra, the alien girl who had fought 1,000 warriors in spirit to clear his name, remained his steadfast partner, a reminder that courage and belief in one another could change the fate of worlds. The stars began to appear in the night sky, twinkling above the floating cities. Ethan felt a deep sense of hope and purpose. Humans had not only survived, they had thrived, outsmarted the elite, and earned recognition among the stars. And with Lyra by his side, he knew the future held endless possibilities. Together, they had turned what seemed impossible into reality. And together, they would face whatever the galaxy could challenge them with next, proving that humans, clever, brave, and united, could achieve greatness beyond imagination. The adventure was complete, yet the legacy had only just begun. And in that moment, Ethan and Lyra knew that humanity's story among the stars was only starting to be written.